Episode 3, Season 1. So you want to be a teacher. I took my hand, I slapped the table, and I said, I will take that job. And 26 years later, I am still a teacher. But to get to that moment, I had to put in a lot of hard work after I had made the decision to be a teacher. And so will you. Welcome to Middle School Madness, a podcast about teaching and things that are interesting to teachers. Today we are talking about becoming a teacher. Now, you've already made the decision to be a teacher. You know you want to join the teaching profession. But now you've got to go and get that job as a teacher. And to get that job, you have got to answer some simple questions. Where, second where, who, and tell me a story. The first thing you got to answer is, where do you want to teach? You are most likely young and in your early 20s, I am imagining, and now is the time to go anywhere you want from coast to coast. You can do it. If you want to move, open up a map, find a place geographically that you would like to go and teach, and you start dreaming about that place. Because this is your time to move. You don't need to stay put wherever your college or wherever you did your student teaching. You can go out there. And I want you to dream big. If you would like to go to Chicago, go to Chicago. You want to go to the East Coast, go to the East Coast. What is it that you like? And then go to the second where. If you did go there, you got to discover what kind of schools they have. Do they have county schools? You take a big county, and is the county control the entire school? So if you go there and interview, will they place you anywhere within that county? And does that county resonate with you? Or is it a district school where within a county are smaller school districts, right? And inside those smaller school districts, does that mean you would then have to apply to a lot more school districts or just to apply to one of the counties? And this is a two-step process. One, decide where you want to go, right? Geographically, find that place. And then two, discover whether they have county schools or whether they have district schools. County schools are much easier to apply to because you apply to one county and they could have dozens of schools in your certification area where you could end up teaching. But if you end up going district by district, you're going to have to go to each district and apply to that district. Now comes a challenging question for you as a young teacher wannabe. You've got to reflect on you, and you've got to think about, what am I as a teacher familiar with? Are you familiar with urban schools? Are you familiar with suburban schools? Are you familiar with country schools? And now you've got to ask your question, where can you relate to? Because I think when you step into the classroom, you as a teacher need to have already some kind of relationship, some kind of foundation with the community that you're going to step into. What is your connection? How do you relate? If you grew up in an urban setting and you feel very comfortable there, go to that urban setting. Chances are you're going to fit right in because you can already imagine the environment in front of you. If you're very familiar with a suburban setting and that community, then you need to go there. Or if you want to go rural, go rural. But you've got to do this by reflecting on who you are. And then you know that you have a skill set that is going to guide you in this direction of what kind of school do you want to teach in. And this could be challenging because now you have to put where your skills lie and the geography that they can go to. And the only way to do this is to sit down and think, right? What kind of learner am I? What kind of teacher am I? And hopefully in your student teaching experience, you've spent time reflecting on this and you can then go and answer it. And when you've decided where you want to go, when you've then decided the second where of where you want to go within that geography, and then within that geography, you whittled it down to urban, suburban, or rural, now you can go and ask yourself, who can help you get that job? Who do you know? We don't find jobs by ourselves. Rarely, if ever, do you do this, right? And when I was a young teacher, somebody handed me a book called What Color is Your Parachute? And I have not read this book in 26 years because clearly I got a job. But if I remember, one of the main points that the author pointed out is that it is really easy to get a job through your friends. Because of this, they will vouch for you. Yes, I know Oliver. Oliver shows up every day. He works really hard. I've seen him work with kids. I would hire Oliver. And although that may be an oversimplification of a hiring process, it is a place to start. Talk to your parents. Do your parents have friends that teach in that geography and second geography with your skill set where you would like to go? And do they know of anybody that you could talk to? Networking is going to be your friend. It really is. And the more you network, the chances are the more that's going to lead you to an interview, which is what you want to do. Yes, there are times when you can go ahead and maybe you go to that county school and you enter it in and you get the interview anyways because they've got to hire so many people. But I have discovered through, oh my gosh, let's start listing off the jobs. My first teaching job, I got through knowing somebody. My first coaching job, I got through knowing somebody. And then the teaching job that I had for 26 years, I got because I knew somebody, which led to the interview. And as anyone will say, I can probably get you that interview. You have to take it from there. And that is so important. You've got to be able to take it from the interview, which leads us to the last part. If you want to be a teacher in 2024, you've got the interview, how to tell a story in the interview. This is how you do it. When you get there, hopefully if you have prepared yourself for an interview by reflecting on all the experiences that you have had in teaching. You've gone through your student teaching experience. You've probably worked with kids along the way. You've got to think about your best moments. You've got to think about those hard moments. You need to think about what you learned, anything that has happened in developing, say, lesson plans, and turn that moment into a story so that you can tell it when you're in there, because your ability to tell a story is going to get the person's attention. And when you get to the end that says, hey, this person really reflected and learned something, they're going to say, the person looking to hire, I want this guy in the classroom. So how do you tell a story? If the question is, and you'll probably get this question, a very simple question, tell me about the time where you had to do some discipline in class. Boy, that question is going to put you on your heels right away. And you've got to tell the story. You've got to give the setting. I had this 8th period class for acting that had a really tight-knit group of students who knew right away that I was maybe 4 or 6 years older than them. And as the classes rolled on, they just began to take advantage of my good-naturedness, and they made the class harder and harder and harder to teach through exercises that we were trying to do, which in this case was acting. I have an intro. I've set the scene, right? The person on the other side of the table can see the young me. And so I noticed that it was always several students, and then the rest of the class would go in, and the class was becoming unmanageable. So I had to come up with a strategy to get their attention, but at the same time, I also knew that if I yelled at them too much, they might laugh and not take me seriously. So I had a tricky act to balance. And I got to the class one day in the middle of the week, and sure enough, I was prepared for them to do what they had been doing. And I raised my voice and I dropped it a little bit so it sounded more authoritative. And I got their attention with a quick, this needs to stop now. And I did this, I told the person in my interview, by sitting in my chair. I knew that I didn't want to have any kind of physical overbearance. I wanted to sit down, right, and remain calm, but sound very authoritarian, very upset in my voice. And it got their attention, and they stopped what they were doing. And then I went through a very basic list of, we are here today to do some theater, but this is stopping because of the behavior of a few that is going to infect the others, which makes this class unmanageable and makes the atmosphere in the class unproductive for learning what we're here for. And here's how I would like this to change going forward from this moment. And then I outlined whatever it was. I can't remember it. But I do remember that it worked, and it worked well. And the next day I showed up, the one kid tried something, and I just had to raise my voice and remind him of the day before, and the class was under control. And I was able to do this by simply sitting in my chair. I told a story. It wasn't easy. There was a conflict. There was a resolution. I talked about planning. Then I talked about what I learned in the aftermath. And this could be for anything. If you developed a really good lesson plan that you really like and they say, hey, tell me about a great lesson plan, it's the same thing. So I was given a task of developing a lesson for my class. Here's how I went about doing it. These things went well. This was unprepared for, but I was able to adjust it in the second time that I taught it. And here is what I learned. If you can do that in an interview, they are going to say, we have a highly intelligent person who is very reflective of what they've done, shows an ability to grow. And chances are you will get a phone call that says, we would like to hire you. And that's what you've done. So now that you've figured out the where, who can help you, and how to tell a story, there it is. It is the sound of the bell. It is time to punch out, wash up, and leave the greatest playground in all of the world, your classroom. I am so glad that you have decided to become a teacher because the world needs good teachers. Be good to yourself. Thanks for listening, and we will see you in the hallway. You guys are great.